I wanted a pancake lens that was lightweight, compact, easy to carry around, so that I could go out and do street photography, walking around town with just one lens on my camera. And I had three choices for my X-T5 and the XS20 camera. First one was Fujifilm 27mm f2.8 lens, the WR, which is hard to get. So you have to be really diligent watching sites to find one. And the TTartisan 27mm f2.8 lens, that was another choice. And then the Voigtlander 27mm f2 Ultron, which is a manual focus lens. That one really piqued my interest. And this is where I went off track. I wanted that pancake lens, but I veered off of what my requirements were going to be, and I ended up making a mistake. And therefore, I had to return the lens and start the process over again. But let me explain why this happened. It all started when I was watching YouTube videos about pancake lenses for these Fujifilm X series cameras that I've got. I have the X-T5 and the XS20. And I was watching the reviews for the Fujifilm 27mm WR lens, the TTartisan 27mm lens, and the Voigtlander 27mm f2 lens. And this is where not making a list of what your requirements are ahead of time can get you into trouble. And it did me. I ended up buying a lens, returning it, and then having to buy it again. And it was all because I adopted somebody else's needs and kind of incorporated that into my own, and it just turned into a big muddled mess. So I ordered the Voigtlander 27mm f2 Ultron lens. It is a beautiful lens. It is so small. It is sharp, compact, lightweight, manual focus, but it has electrical contact, so it does communicate with the camera. You get all your metadata with it. You can see the scale on your viewfinder or on the LCD on the back of the camera. There were features to this that made sense to me that, yeah, I could do this. But the one thing I was forgetting is the street photography part, where I was going to want to walk around town and, just hold my camera up, take a shot, take a shot, take a shot. Well, yeah, the manual focus part, that really doesn't work very well for that. The lens has a focus tab on the bottom that you can slide to get focus, right? But between 3 meters and infinity, there's just this little tiny focus throw. It would be just like going like this, just like that, right? So that's kind of the range that I wanted to be shooting in for street photography. So I've already got myself into a problem now because the focus tab to my copy was a bit loose. And the distance is so short that it was going to be really hard to try to focus with focus peaking from 3 meters to infinity on a consistent basis while you were out walking around. I realized that after I got the lens and started using it. If I had an unlimited budget, I would definitely have kept the lens, even at the very expensive price of $595 US, which is a lot to spend for a manual focus lens when there are cheaper alternatives that have autofocus. Yes, it has some really nice 3D pop and background separation. It's very sharp, but it didn't fill the one need that I had, which was for my street photography. And then I found the real issue that was concerning to me, and I'll tell you about that in just a second. The other issue that I had was it just wasn't weather sealed, whereas the Fujifilm WR f2.8 lens is weather sealed. And finally, the other big issue was I was looking at the images in Capture One, and I noticed when I loaded up all the images in a folder that I had taken with that lens that when I was looking down I noticed there was a bunch of images that shot at f/22, which that lens does go to f/22. But I was shooting at f2. And I thought, how did I slide the aperture all the way over to the other side when I was at f2? How did I get all the way to f/22? Because it has an aperture dial, right? I took a few more shots. A few of them were recorded at f/22. Some were at f2. They were all taken at f2 though. That got me concerned. I went down this rabbit hole and started doing some research online and found out, yeah, there is a problem with the lens on the newer versions of firmware from Fuji, where it just randomly decides that if you are shooting at f2, not at the other apertures, but just at f2, it'll record it as f/22. And of course, in Capture One, I can't fix that. I'd have to get another tool to be able to change that. And then that just kind of defeated the whole purpose of having the electric contacts and having the correct information saved in the camera and then be able to view that in Capture One. And that was probably the last straw for me with that lens. I was like, okay, no weather sealing. It's going to be difficult with that short focus throw to do street photography. Other lenses I have for close-up photography, I have the 23mm f1.4 LMWR lens, which is amazing. I mean, I can take close-up, beautiful, sharp, crisp photos with it. So I don't need the Voigtlander lens for that. So anyway, I decided to return it. So off to B&H it went. And then I purchased the 27mm Fuji f2.8 lens again, because I had bought it a couple of weeks ago. And let's talk about why I returned that one. Oh gosh, it's embarrassing. It really is. Yeah. So I bought it, and this is the 35mm lens, right? So this one hunts a little bit, makes a little bit of noise when you're focusing, and so did the Fujifilm 27mm f2.8 lens. And I was thinking to myself, okay, this noise, the noise and the focusing, hunting was a little annoying to me. And I was like, man, I can't believe they'll make this lens, and it's a Mark II of the lens, and it's still making this noise and hunting for focus, especially when you have a low contrast area. So if you're like trying to focus on a wall that's blank, yeah, good luck with that. It's just going to go back and forth and back and forth. You got to find something where there's some contrast to focus it. I just think I was premature on returning that one. And even worse, right? You're going to laugh at this. Even worse was the fact that I got it for $369 on B&H in their used section, like new condition. Can't believe I returned it. I should have just kept it. So anyway, then I'm on the hunt to get the Fujifilm lens again. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm looking and I'm seeing things on eBay, they're $450, $500 for a used one. And I was thinking, okay, I've really messed this up. I'm going to have to wait now and for this lens. And then I saw on B&H that they were back ordered, the new ones, and it said January 8th it was due in stock. And I thought, okay, I can wait. So I was monitoring, the site. I put in to be notified when it was back in stock. I happened to be looking on January 6th, and it just popped that it was available. So I immediately ordered it and checked out. And so it's coming tomorrow, and this is a round trip for this whole thing. So the lesson for me is not sticking to my requirements in the beginning, and then just realizing that everything is a compromise. I was going to have to compromise on something. So it was whether it was going to be, the slower focusing or the hunting of the autofocus 27mm lens, or, the manual focus on the Voigtlander lens. And then I didn't even touch on the TTartisan lens, which I ruled that out without even ordering it. Thank God, because I would have had to return that one too. I ruled that out because of the vignetting and because you can only update the firmware on that lens with a Windows computer. I have a Mac computer, so you can't update the firmware on your Mac. I'd have to go find a Windows computer to do it, and then that was just more headache than that would be worth for me. So I ruled that lens out. Now, it is a good lens, and I've seen some reviews on YouTube here that gave it pretty high marks as far as sharpness, autofocus, and things like that. It's definitely a very low-cost alternative at $149 to $159. I've seen it on Amazon for $159. B&H, when it is in stock, has it for $149. So in the end, I'm going to have the Fujifilm 27mm f2.8 lens. I think it's a good compromise for me to carry it around. I don't have to worry about firmware issues with that. It's a little better than the TTartisan lens would have been. It's going to be more convenient for me to use because of the autofocus versus just the manual focus lens. Now, I'm not saying don't buy the Voigtlander lens because it is a beautiful lens and it really is nice. I do think that the focus throw could have been a little longer, especially when you're focusing from 3 meters out. You could have had more room to slide that to be able to find your focus there. Now, if you're going to be using it for close-up shots and stuff, the focus peaking makes it really easy. And then I think if you hit the display back button twice, you get a split image where you've got a zoomed in little box on the right, and then you've got your box of what you're currently looking at in the viewfinder or on the LCD. So you can really check with the focus peaking whether or not you've got what it is you're aiming at in focus. I learned that technique going through this exercise with these lenses, and I'm glad that I learned it because it's going to come in really handy for me. I'm going to use it anytime I'm manually focusing, which for me, it's going to come in handy when I am using the 80mm macro lens and I want to do some close-up shots and I'm going to use manual focus. That split screen there is going to come in handy for that. So I'm going to have the 27mm Fujifilm. Yes, I have to make some compromises. So if you've bought a lens and returned it, and then bought it again, share that in the comments so that I'm not all alone on this as the only person who has done this. I'm sure I'm going to be getting a letter from B&H like, why are you returning these things? What are you doing? So I'm sorry, B&H. I will do better. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and share your experiences in the comments. Do you have a pancake lens for your Fujifilm? And which pancake lens are you using and why? And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.